Video games are just like films, except rather than just simply watching the characters on a screen, people can play the actual characters and fully engage in the experience. As much as the graphics are important for a successful game, the soundtrack is equally as important as it provides background and increases engagement. Creating a soundtrack for a video game can be just as difficult as creating one for a film. But in the case of The Last of Us Part 2, creating a soundtrack that perfectly matches the adventure horror theme is something that can be similarly found in the soundtrack for a horror film. The Last of Us Part 2 is an adventure survivor horror-based game available on PlayStation 4, developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was released in 2020 and serves as a sequel to the acclaimed The Last of Us.
Hello.
Since the first game, Part 2 brings us back to the main characters, Ellie, the protagonist who is immune to the infection, and Joel, the seasoned survivor. The two form a surrogate father-daughter relationship. While on a routine patrol around their home in Jackson, Wyoming, Joel and his brother Tommy encounter Abby, the daughter of the Firefly surgeon Joel murdered in the original game to save Ellie.
Joe. Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
Because they have.
Abby beats Joel with a golf club and Ellie arrives just in time to personally witness the final blow. Abby and her group leave Ellie and Tommy alive, having no reason to kill them. Tommy goes to Seattle for revenge, and his wife Maria sends Ellie and Dinah, Ellie's love interest, to bring him back. Once in Seattle, Ellie and Dinah follow Tommy's path of destruction and find themselves caught in the middle of the war between the WLF, Washington Liberal Front, and a religious cult, the Seraphites. Dinah learns the secret of Ellie's immunity and reveals her sick condition is likely due to a pregnancy, and Ellie continues her revenge tour on her own. She encounters Jesse, the father of Dinah's baby, who follows them to Seattle. After escaping the WLF, Jesse stays with Dinah. Ellie follows Abby's trail to an aquarium where she kills Owen and Mel, who is pregnant. Halfway through, the perspective switches to Abby. The WLF is revealed to be a functioning society threatened by war with the Seraphites. Abby is one of the WLF's top soldiers. She goes AWOL to find Owen, her unrequited love interest, who is missing and suspected of treason. On the way, she is captured and hung by the Seraphites, only to be rescued by two excommunicated Seraphites, teenager siblings Yara and Lev. Yara's arm is shattered in the rescue. Abby goes on a mission to help Yara get her arm safely amputated and encounters many threats from the Seraphites, the infected, including a super bloater. Though Abby gets the medicine and tools to save Yara's life, she becomes a traitor to the WLF for working with the Seraphites. When the WLF attacks the Seraphite island, Abby and Lev are forced to kill everything and everyone in their path. Abby returns to the aquarium to find Owen and Mel murdered, and Ellie's map.
What do we do when we find him?
Abby and Lev enter the theater Ellie is using as a base.
You fucking people.
I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. There is no cure because of me. I am the one that you want.
Ellie learned years earlier what Joel did to save her, which severely fractured their relationship.
I'll go back. But we're done.
Abby and Ellie fight, and Abby wins. However, Abby lets Ellie live.
Don't ever let me see you again.
Sometime later, Ellie and Dinah live on a farm and raise Dinah's son. Life is idyllic, though Ellie suffers from PTSD from the game's events.
Ellie? Hey, Ellie. Look at me. It's okay. You're home. You're home.
When Tommy reveals that he has info on Abby's location in Santa Barbara, Ellie leaves for revenge against Dinah's wishes. In Santa Barbara, Abby and Lev find there are fireflies left, but are captured by slavers. Ellie finds the slavers and frees the slaves, who revolt and then finds Abby. They fight again, but this time Ellie wins and lets Abby go. Ellie returns to her farmhouse to find it empty. Ellie lost everything in the name of revenge.
Gustavo Santaolalla is the composer for the Last of Us series, with additional music contributed by Matt Quayle, which was used for combat music. Additional music includes Pearl Jam's Future Days.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
And Aha's Take On Me. Gustavo was born in 1951 in El Palmar, Buenos Aires, Argentina. His earliest music education came from his father, who taught him guitar and other instruments. Gustavo began playing guitar at age 5 and began composing at age 10. In an NPR interview from 2006, he admitted to not being able to read or write music. Gustavo has no formal training and produces music in his own unique way. Santaolalla said that his guitar teacher quit on him due to his overwhelming interest in the instrument, stating that his music teacher told his mother, "His ear is stronger than my music." Despite his lack of formal training, music flowed out of Santaolalla, saying he almost had a spiritual connection to it. After leaving his music teacher, he quickly began writing his own songs. His professional music career began in the 1970s as the lead singer of band Arco Iris, when Gustavo was only 16. Inspired by rock coming out of the UK and the United States, he would write songs in English to mimic bands like the Beatles. The band released several albums together before they disbanded in 1979. Gustavo played in many bands, mostly with a rock and Latin American folk sound. His band Arco Iris helped to form a new genre throughout Argentina called rock nacional. Eventually, he moved to Los Angeles and played in another band called Wet Picnic, but with a rock and roll sound. With heavy North American influence, Santaolalla kept his Latin folk roots through his love of Spanish instruments and sounds. Throughout the 1980s, he traveled back and forth from the US and Argentina, working as a producer for many Latin American musicians. Eventually, in the 1990s, he began his work in film scoring, winning 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Score for Brokeback Mountain in 2006 and Babel in 2007. His unique sound brought attention to film directors. He had no formal plan to get into film scoring, but let the opportunities come to him. In 2015, Santaolalla was inducted into the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. He worked on many film scores, solo music, and other projects before being asked to work on the 2013 action-adventure game The Last of Us. Receiving critical acclaim, he was asked to return to compose for the game's sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, in 2020. The Last of Us series was Gustavo's first experience composing for a video game. He later composed HBO's television adaptation of the games. Gustavo was approached by Sony to compose for the game. He had come to their attention due to his film scoring success. The instrument used for the game's introduction is the ronroco. The Spanish folk instrument holds similarities to a typical acoustic guitar, but instead of the typical 5 strings, the ronroco has 10 strings that sit in a position of 5, but doubled so 2 strings are played at the same time. Gustavo holds significance to this instrument, having already released an album dedicated to the ronroco in 1988. The game's creative director, Neil Druckmann, gave Gustavo creative freedom on the game's musical composition. He enjoyed this freedom, saying it assisted him in his creative process. Gustavo was able to play around with different instruments, sounds, textures, and moods. Due to his lack of traditional music education, he prefers to compose while he records. Gustavo's son sparked his interest in video game composing. Watching how his son connected with video game characters emotionally, he became interested in working on a video game project. So, when Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog reached out to him, he jumped at the opportunity to try out a new project. In his typical process, he reads a script and follows the creative vision for the story, letting the story drive his musical composition. The first piece Gustavo composed was the game's theme, which featured the ronroco. For the recording instruments in his composition, he enjoys leaving in mistakes or noises, saying it adds a human element. The ronrogo held significance in the game, but in the second game, the primary instrument became the banjo. This was to give the music a similar feel, but in different timbres. Gustavo now works on the HBO adaptation as well as other projects.
The music in this game, composed by Gustavo Santaolalla and Mac Hale, is essential in enhancing the emotional immersive experience for players. The use of music in this game is a masterful example of how a carefully crafted score can elevate the narrative, atmosphere, and emotional impact of a video game. Gustavo and Mac's collaboration combined with a dynamic music system contributes to the game's immersive and cinematic qualities, making it a standout experience for players. The music is used strategically to enhance the impact of key gameplay moments. The music also adapts to the situation, enhancing the player's emotional connection to the unfolding narrative. Whether it's during intense combat sequences, emotional character interactions, or exploration of the environment.
Oh, it's a motherfucking dinosaur!
The timing and placement of the music are critical in creating a cinematic and immersive experience.
Bear smells.
Jesus!
The Last of Us Part 2 contains both diegetic and non-diegetic elements. The game includes scenes in which characters actively interact with music in the game world. Ellie, the protagonist for example, plays the guitar at various points throughout the game, and players are directly involved in controlling this aspect of the gameplay. These instances of in-game music creation are diegetic in the sense that the characters are aware of and involved in the music. Gustavo and Mac composed the majority of this game's soundtrack to be non-diegetic. This music serves as a score that enhances the emotional impact of the narrative, playing during various scenes such as intense action, exploration, or emotional storytelling. The characters in this game are unaware of the music. It is included to elicit specific emotions and enhance the player's experience. During the majority of the gameplay experience, the game does not oversaturate its experience by filling every moment with music. Naughty Dog does not shy away from uncomfortable silence. But rather uses music to drive its plot even further, by using silence as a tool allowing the players to ingest the story uninterrupted.
Nothing to do with Owen. Right.
I haven't always done the right thing.
You're a piece of shit, Abby.
You always have been. I'm done with you.
The Last of Us Part 2 is classified as an action horror survival game with suspenseful moments and unexpected jump scares. The game makes use of these high-pressure moments by accentuating them with complementary music effects. Naughty Dog uses these actions sparingly in order to avoid conditioning the player with these sound bites. This makes the critical moments stand out more and adds more emotion to the scenes. Many of the cinematic cutscenes in the game are devoid of music, reminiscent of drama TV shows. However, during emotionally charged scenes such as Ellie and Dina's romantic scenes, or Abby running through the snowstorm while dodging infected hordes, the music used is impactful enough to emphasize these moments, while remaining soft enough not to steal the spotlight.
No one is stopping you.
This better be better than a 6.
The function of music in The Last of Us Part 2 can be broken down into 3 distinct categories: atmospheric, dramatic, and thematic. Much of Part 2's music is designed to enhance the atmosphere of the game. It achieves this through the absence of music, which allows the calm, quiet of the apocalyptic landscape to play its tune and reinforce the emptiness of the game's world. It uses music to shatter the silence inside a dark, derelict structure by introducing a creeping low-register thrum that immediately makes the player clench their controller hard and prepare for the worst. On the flip side, the music can uplift beautiful landscapes and accentuate rare reveries of tranquility that one must appreciate in this bleak, unforgiving universe. Combat music relies on a pulse-pounding drum to heighten the tension for the player. Ambient soundscapes accompany the infected that await inside dark, dusty spaces. Major narrative moments are. A prime example is Joel's death from Ellie's perspective. There is a low register build-up as Abby raises the club and swings. Upon impact, it is replaced by a high-pitched droning buzz that lingers. A low rhythmic pulse creeps in. This represents the bubbling enmity for Abby. As the drum gets louder and harsher, it overpowers the voices in the room so that Ellie's hatred and grief are all she can hear. This music locks Ellie and the player into this pivotal moment through the entire playthrough, and it serves as the composition of Ellie's intense trauma. In contrast, upon finding Owen murdered, the music is melancholy to underscore Abby's sadness. But upon being shown Ellie's map, a similar approach to Ellie's traumatic groan is used. The music turns to a slow, deep thrum that represents the same hatred and grief that Ellie experienced while watching Joel's death. However, there was no shock in Abby's thrum, only a calculated and measured need for blood. Music is the core thematic element to Ellie and Joel's relationship. The first image we see is the guitar Joel gives to Ellie as he tells Tommy about killing the fireflies. He cleans the guitar as if he has dirtied it with the blood on his hands.
She's yours.
No. No. I don't know the first thing about
I promised that I'd teach you how to play.
And teaches her Pearl Jam's Future Days, which Ellie plays later in the game herself. During the climactic fight, Abby bites off 2 of Ellie's fingers. In the closing moments, Ellie tries to play guitar, but she can't with her missing fingers. It is one more thing her quest for vengeance has cost her. The closing image of The Last of Us Part 2 is the guitar that Joel gave to Ellie leaning against the window of the empty farmhouse. Through the window, we see Ellie in the distance, taking her first steps and leaving her grief behind.